Welcome to yoga. I'm Christy. Let's take a nice deep breath. So, and then just keeping in the theme of self-care, where you're going to practice yoga, it's nice if you're going to have just some space that's a little bit peaceful, calm, just that's your space just for yoga if possible, or just to have, like just a nice quiet little corner where you always do your yoga and that's your yoga spot. It can be hard at home because we've got so much going on, but if you can carve out like a little sanctuary for yourself. And so as we've been home, many of us, for a longer period of time, things have gotten, maybe in the beginning we're like, okay, I'm home and I've settled things around. And now it may have gotten, I'm speaking for myself, things have gotten a little disruptive again. So I'm kind of going through room by room and just trying to make everything a little sanctuary, and so that I can get rid of the clutter, which then just becomes chaotic in my mind when there is just too much stuff. People are always giving us stuff, and then it's like, what do we do with it? So if you're not feeling like your home is a sanctuary, maybe just try to carve out corner of a room, one little space. So today you're going to need just a towel or a pillow that's maybe a cylindrical shape, so we can do a little bit of a supported back bend and work on our shoulders. All right, another breath. Let yourself sink down. Let your shoulders try to soften. Notice how you are. What are you feeling in your body right now? What's going on in your mind? Is your mind stressed out? Is it kind of relaxed today? If you're having a great day, then we're just going to work on enjoying that. And if it's a bit of a rough day, physically, mentally, I'm going to just try to bring that all back into a little bit better balance. All right, take another deep breath. And let it go. All right, so this is just a beach towel. And I've got mine, it's not very nicely folded, it's just kind of loosely folded into quarters. With a blanket or a towel, so if you're using a blanket, you want something that's, like I have an old wool blanket, that was my grandmother's. That one works pretty well because it'll compact. You don't want anything fluffy, you want to have some firmness to it. We're just going to make a little bit of a roll. And it doesn't have to be super thick. So if your back is tight, you can just you can just roll up part of it and leave the other just hanging. We're going to do it across our backs. We're going to lie on it. So you want the roll to come right underneath your shoulder blades. And again, if you have like a long cylindrical style pillow, you can use that. So with the towel, if your back's not so tight, you do a little bit and it's like, I'm not really feeling anything, or maybe you're just the weight of your body kind of smushes it down too much. You can just roll it up a little bit more. It gives you that way to adjust it. So I'm just going to lay mine across my mat. Bring it down a little farther. And we're going to let our shoulder blades try to rest on the floor just above where that roll is. Now I will say sometimes I will do that little roll right along the shoulder blades, as long as it's just a small roll there. Sometimes just that pressure right on the shoulder blades feels really nice, I think. But if you can get it below your shoulder blades, especially if it's a little bit thicker, And then you want to sink down. If your back is tight, you're going to feel it pretty quickly. And then if it's too much, again, just unroll. It can be a tiny little roll there of the towel. As you rest for a few moments on that towel, you may find that it's not enough, or again, as you kind of hold there, you may start to really feel it. So let yourself adjust in either direction. Make it a little thicker or a little thinner. Keep breathing. We're going to try to sink down. Okay, so I've got my legs in basically like a seated cross-leg position. For me, that often works well. But you can do more of a cobbler's pose with soles of the feet together. And for me, this can get intense pretty quickly. If I do this one, I don't usually do it for very long. If you'd rather, your feet can be on the floor. Your knees can rest together. Or you can do your legs out straight. Some of that may change what you're feeling in your back. Nice breath. This is a good one to do during the day. So obviously it's like more than just, a quick stretch, because you want to be able to lie down on your bed or on the floor. But especially when your shoulders are tight, if you just take 5 minutes and you try to get a comfortable thickness to the towel, can really help change out what's going on in the shoulders. So partly we're just stretching out the spine, and then we're getting those shoulder blades shifting direction. Arms too. A lot of times I do my arms overhead. You might do them straight out to your side, especially if you have a long pillow or a longer towel sticking out to your sides. It's a little bit more awkward to bring your arms down along your sides. So usually just stretching them straight out in either direction. All right, take another breath, and then we're going to change the direction of the towel. But first we're going to roll off. So feet on the floor, try to roll over to one side. We're going to try to pull this towel out, and then just be flat on the back. If it was really thick, your back may feel a little odd now. Alright, so I think the way I have my towel rolled, I think it's going to be a little short to do it along my spine. So I'm going to roll it along a slightly longer side here. Alright, so now I have a longer shape here. You may want something under your head too. Usually the way you want to position this is to sit on the floor and pull it right up next to you. So that's going to rest in your, actually I'm going to pull that back a little bit so it's not quite touching me. I want the end of that blanket or towel to come right into my low back. So I'm feeling like my low back has a little bit of support. You want it to come up high enough that now your shoulder blades are dropping down on either side. If you want a little something else for your head, you can just grab another pillow, or it could be another towel, which I didn't tell you to get, so hopefully you're feeling okay here. It could also be that you're just going to bring, because we're not going to be here super long, maybe just bringing your hands underneath your head could be helpful. Same thing with your legs. Find where it feels right. And if it's too thick, again, you can just kind of roll it out and let that little flap of the towel or blanket just stick out to one side. So just remind yourself that your self-care practice does not have to be super long. So sometimes we avoid doing things because I'm like, oh, I have so much work to do. I can't spend 30 or 40 or 60 minutes doing that. But you can take 5 minutes usually. And just move away from your desk and stretch out your shoulders and your hips. All right, so let's move off. We're just going to gently roll off to the side again. And then we're going to pull that towel out. So a towel is a great prop to kind of have around for your yoga practice because it can be a pillow. If you're doing maybe like, I'll do a twist in a minute. If you're doing like a twist where you bring the leg over but it's a little too intense, you can just, do a folded or rolled up towel underneath the leg. So cheap prop. Almost everybody has a towel in their house, I think. Hopefully you do. All right, on the back, take a breath. Pull your knees in. And then let your right ankle come to rest on top of your left thigh so we can do reclining pigeon. Again, depending on how you're feeling here. If your shoulders are really tight, you might prefer to let the legs just drop over to that left side so that your right foot's coming down onto the floor. And then your arms can stretch out. The other way to do your blanket, I keep calling it a blanket, it's a towel. It's just under your head, which can also make it a little easier for your shoulders if you're holding on to that left leg here. All right, breathe. Work on relaxing those shoulders. Sometimes you might want to scream a little bit too for your self-care routine, right? You can do a little as you're working on releasing out some tension. I do that a lot in the car. If I'm starting to feel stressed out and aggravated and I have my windows up, I'll just do a little low-level sort of screaming. Not when anybody else is in the car with me. All right, let's change sides. So we're just gonna release the legs, pull them up towards the ceiling, pull them in towards you. Big breath. And then we'll let the left ankle rest on the right thigh. So again, if you're gonna let the legs fall over, just let them come on down. If you're gonna hold on, squeeze in gently. All right, and then we're gonna release. Just let both legs come up towards the ceiling, feet up towards the ceiling. We're gonna hold the backs of the legs, pull in. Big breath. And then if you can, let go of your legs, bring your arms out past your head. Just give a little stretch out. Legs keep pulling in towards you. Arms overhead. Good. And then let your feet drop out away from one another. Try to pull your toes in towards your knees. Push your heels out from your hips and then bring your legs back up so the feet are touching. And then legs drop back out to the side. If you want a little more support for your back, bring your hands or kind of your wrists right underneath your hips. It'll just lift your hips up a little bit, give your back a little more support. I'm just going to do the feet out wide and gently pull them in at no particular pace. So we're both stretching and strengthening the inner leg. So as we drop out, we're going to get that stretch. As we pull in, we're making those inner leg muscles work. And then bend your knees, let your feet come on down. Take a breath. And then we're going to bring the legs up. So again, you might want a little support underneath your hips here. We're going to let the legs drop out. And then we're going to bring them back up. So you can let them go as far as feels okay for you. I usually do better, especially if I'm doing both legs, just to let them go out a little bit and then pull them back in. If you want to do one leg, so that I can do. It's not the greatest thing ever for my back, but I can do that without hurting myself. If I do two legs and drop them all the way down, that's not great for me. So again, where's your self-care? Try not to get obsessive about how we're moving the body, but just keep working at it. So it could just be that you're going to drop your feet down, just bending your knees, and then the legs come back up. Observing the sensations in the body. So this way, with your feet going down and coming back up, you're working a little bit the upper leg muscles, the thighs, the quads, and your lower abdomen. And then let your feet come back down. So just take that little pause, breath. Let yourself relax down into the floor. And then we'll do a bridge. Feet on the floor. Low back presses down. Hips are going to push up towards the ceiling. Just explore how high you want to be. You can be lower. You don't have to be all the way as far as you could possibly go into the pose. Listen to what's going on here. We're going to work on pulling knees away from hips, level on the feet. So even if your eyes are closed, try to visualize. Where are your legs? Are the knees dropping out away from each other? We're going to try to keep those knees pulling straight forward from the hips. Breathe. And then just try to get as level as you can on your feet. This is another good one for your shoulders because you're putting some pressure onto the shoulders. And then slowly lower all the way down. Let your low back come down. And then if you feel like you want to bring your knees in, I'm going to keep my feet on the floor here. If you want to bring your knees in, just hug your knees in. For me, that's feeling good just to have my feet down. And then let's do a twist. We're going to take arms out of shoulder height. We're going to bring the knees over to the right side. So if you want to take it a little bit deeper, just play with where your legs are. Notice how it shifts your pose. You can bring this top leg, you can stretch it straight out. You could cross your top knee over the bottom knee. So again, we need that consistency with self-care. So if you're making your practice like too big of a deal and you're not getting it done, just really try to cut back because we need something every day. Our bodies tighten up overnight. There's a lot going on in our heads every day. Come on back to center. So you can pick any one pose and just give yourself like a couple of minutes, especially if it's not like too difficult to pose. Something that you're lying on the floor like this, you can let yourself hold it for a couple minutes, just like we did with the towel, with that supported backbone. And then we're going to take the legs over to the left side. So again, however you're feeling like you want to do this side, let your knees drop to the left. If you want to bring that top leg and just extend it out, notice what happens. So as you shift your legs, you might start to feel like that lower body's pulling over a little bit more, which could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing too. Feel what's happening in your body. And then if you're ready, come on back to center. Hug your knees in. Rock a little from side to side. If you're doing Happy Baby, grab hold of your feet. Happy Baby can be with your feet together, or it can be with those feet pulling apart. Soles of the feet pointing upward. And then if it feels good, you can move back and forth. So you can just do that like that little rocking, or you can go all the way to one side and have that knee come down. You can take it all the way over there and maybe just take a breath. So to calm our nervous systems and get out of fight or flight syndrome, right? Constant stress. We need to work on just learning to slow down and breathe. All right, let's come on up. I'm going to work a little bit on wrists and hands too. So one of the other things, right, if you're working at your desk, you know, so especially whatever your dominant hand is. So for me, it's right hand. This shoulder, this hand, this wrist take a lot of abuse if I'm working all day at my computer. So simple ways to do it while you're working. So one of them is just to bring this arm across your chest. If that's painful, bend the elbow, let your hand rest on the opposite shoulder and just pull your elbow down. So you're getting a little bit of movement in the shoulder. You can do this one right while you're working, just taking this, you can still be staring at your computer screen and work on, we're talking on the phone or whatever, just work on stretching out the shoulder. So when these shoulders get tight, what I've been having happen this week is that my fingers are just so cold, right? Then everything's just knotted up and my fingers are freezing, so I'm constantly, shaking and stuff. All right, let's change sides. So we're gonna bring opposite arm across the chest, or again, it can be elbow pushing down towards your navel. Breathe. And that's why we did the towel under the shoulders and between the shoulders, to help work out some of that stuff that gets stuck in the shoulder area and cuts off that circulation in the arm. All right, and then we're going to release. Just bring hands behind you, interlace fingers, let your head drop down, and see if you can pull your hands up towards the ceiling. And see if you can move your shoulders around a little bit in there. As you pull your hands up, can your shoulders still push down a little bit? Feel what's happening there. Where is that good spot where you really feel like you're getting into whatever may be sore or knotted up? And then let your hands come down, release. we're going to work on the wrists. So trying to get into this lower arm. One of the things to do is just to massage the wrist. All right, bring your thumb into that top part of the lower arm, just above the wrist and into the wrist. And if it's really sore, you'll feel that tenderness. And maybe just find, a spot that's a little tender and push in a bit. All right, so palm up, fingertips pull down. If you can do it with your hand on the floor, you can do it that way too. And then you're just working on kind of pulling the arm backward, maybe bending the elbow. Depending on how you're positioned, you may or may not be able to do that. So if I bend my elbow a little bit and start to pull the heel of my hand up off the floor, I can get a little bit more into those fingers. Ouch, that is tight. Breath. Okay, so doing it on the floor, more intensity. When you have your arm up, we're going to change sides. So opposite palm up. Oh, we didn't do the massage yet. Okay. So use your thumb. Massage into both sides of your wrist. Again, notice what's going on there. So your dominant hand, you're probably going to feel a little more tenderness. So yeah, mine's like, really, I need to go all the way up in here. So I find a lot of times just sort of pulling your fingers, up and down that arm. I had to go back to the other one. I find that helpful. Okay, so we're going to do the second palm up. We're going to pull the fingers down. So here you have more control over the intensity of it. And you can start to drop palm of the hand down towards the floor. And if it feels okay, you can try to put that hand down on the floor. And some of that's how you're sitting and positioned. If you're on hands and knees, this is a little easier to do. And then if you can feel like you can bend your elbow and bring the heel of your hand up here, you're just exploring. There's not like some perfect way to do that. You just want to feel, how can I get that nice little stretch in the fingers and in the wrists and the lower arm. And then we're going to turn over. So again, palm can face down, and you can just then pull your fingers towards the floor and in towards that underside of the arm. Or you can bring the hand down. I think it feels good when you're putting just a little gentle pressure down, right, like the end of that arm bone, like you're just pushing that down gently. Good, and then we're going to release that side. We're going to do the other hand. So again, it can be palm down, pull your fingers in, and then the back of the hand can come down onto the floor if you like. Trying to push, again, like you're just pushing that arm, the end of that arm bone down towards the floor. Breath. And then we're going to release that side. All right, and then just fingers, right? You can just kind of scrunch your fingers, interlace the fingers, just kind of squeeze, maybe make almost like a fist, kind of curling your fingers in, and then squeeze them with the other hand. You can try to pull or sort of push those fingers backward as they're bent. Thumb's a little harder to do. And then other hand. So again, just play with that. Move your fingers around. Good. And then we'll just circle shoulders, we'll let head drop down. All right, and then we're going to do a down dog. So come out onto hands and knees, shift your way into a downward facing dog. If you'd rather be in child's pose, be in child's pose. Big breath. Down dog is another great one. So if you have a spot where you can keep your yoga mat out so that you can do down dog during the day, it's a good way to stretch your back, your shoulders, your legs. You can rise up on the bring the heels up. So you're coming up onto the toes. Bring your heels up, stretching out your toes, just like we did with the fingers.
And then let your heels drop back down. So if your heels are hanging out above the floor, just try bending one knee so the other heel comes down a little bit lower so you get this deeper stretch through your lower leg. Even if your heels are down, you may find if you just pick one foot up, you'll get that little deeper stretch in your lower leg, and then change sides. So either bend one knee or pick that foot up. So you're letting the other heel drop down a little bit lower. And then walk both feet up to your hands. Come into a standing forward fold. Another great way to just release some tension out during the day. You're going to get, again, legs, back, shoulders. Breath. Inhale all the way up. Come on up to standing. Reach your arms up overhead. Hands together. Bring them on down to the heart. Take a breath. Got hands on your hips. All right. Feet wide. Turn your right foot out to the right to let your left foot follow. Drop your hips down. Bend in the knee. And arms come on up to shoulder height. Shoulder blades down. Big breath. Let your lower right arm rest on your lower right thigh. See if you can pull this left arm up and out overhead, pushing your shoulder blade down towards your hip as the fingers reach out past your head. Bottom hand palm turns up. And then we're going to take it to the other side. Come on up. Turn this right foot in. So you're already starting to spin your right foot towards the left side. Let your left foot turn out. Right foot might need to turn a little bit more. Bend in the knee. Bring your arms on up. Breath. And then rest your lower left arm onto that left thigh. Turn the front of the body away from the floor. Let your right arm reach up and maybe overhead. So again, that shoulder is going to push down towards the hip even as your fingertips are reaching in the opposite direction. So this again could be like your one pose that you're going to do. So if you did like one pose every hour, just as that way to get up out of your chair and move your body, you can just get up and do one pose. So again, if you can like leave your yoga mat somewhere, you can get up, you can do one or two poses every hour. So feet wide, folding forward, hands behind you, interlace fingers, pull hands away from the body. So the more variation that you get in there, right, this is what I'm saying, like just to break up your, it's just good to get up out of your chair every hour and move the body a little bit. But if you're just doing like a different pose each time, you're going to move the body in all these little different directions that we do to keep everything loosening up. All right, we're coming back up if you're still folded in. Let's take a breath. Step feet together. Good. We're going to do a dancer pose. Feet to wall or chair. Just reposition yourself. Lean into either foot you want to start with. So I'm going to lean into my left foot. I'm going to pick my right foot up. Try to get a hold of the right foot. If you're not reaching the foot, or it's just a little too intense that way, just try to hold your foot behind you. Create the shape. If you've got the foot, see how far back you can take that shoulder blade. Keep breathing. So this is another good one. Dancer is like a great leg because you got to focus your mind to stay balanced. Let that side go. You're bringing a little core strength in there. You're opening up your shoulder. And it can be helpful for your quads too. All right, other side. So I'm going to lean into my right foot and pick my left foot up. And then maybe find a spot to focus on. Take that shoulder blade backward. Breathe. Keep looking for the subtleties in the pose. So that arm that's raised out in front of you, can you let that shoulder relax a little bit more? Can you lengthen the spine? Can you relax your jaw? That kind of thing. All right, come back down. Circle shoulders. Take a breath. We're going to do a triangle pose. Feet wide. Toes turn to the right. Right foot turns out, left foot turns towards the right foot. Tailbone down, abdomen in, spine up. Arms come on up to shoulder height, and then you're either reaching out to your right side or you're letting that right hand rest on the thigh, because you can always stay up really high here. Or you're just going to let the hands reach out or slide down. Good. So you're really working on this bending sideways from the hips. Trying to keep this top hip pulled backwards. So the whole front of the body is rotating away from the floor. When you go too low, then this top hip starts to pull forward, the bottom hip starts to push backward. And then you're not working the muscles there, you're not working the legs. So stay up a little bit higher and pull that hip back. And feel like your legs are really working to hold you in place. Your core is going to have to work a little bit more there as well than when you bring that hand down. But also you're getting more hip opening, which as we're sitting so much of the day, hips start to lock up and get painful. Turn that right foot in, so come up if you haven't already. Turn your right foot in, left foot out, tailbone down. And then again, you can either reach out or you can just let the hand slide down the leg. Try to push that bottom hip forward, pull the top hip backward. So you're really making, all right, the lower abdomen work, you're making your upper legs work. And still try to remain calm and relaxed at the same time. Oh, I'm about to fall over. So still getting that hip tension to work out. So like on this side I can really feel, because this is my more difficult hip. When I'm really pushing that hip forward, I can feel how it's engaging the muscles, which is part of how I work that tension out. So we're really making all those muscles in the hip engage when you're pulling the top hip back and pushing the bottom one forward. Okay, again, come on up. We're going to step feet together. Take a breath. Turn to face the short edge of your mat. And we're just going to bend the knees and fold forward. Let the back round. And then we're going to walk the feet backward. Come on into a down dog. If you're going to do a vinyasa, you're coming into plank. And then if you like, knees come down. Bend your elbows. Lower on down onto your abdomen. Pull your legs back. So we're lengthening out the legs and the spine. And then if you want to stay low today, I just want to stay right here. If you want to stay low, you can just do it really without any pressure into your hands. If you're coming up a little higher, you can try straightening your arms if that works for you. Pay attention to how it changes the pose. When I straighten my arms, it becomes more intense in the low back, and that's not always a good thing. I can feel it stretching through my abdomen, which is nice. But if I bend my elbows, my shoulder blades can push down, and I can really work those upper back muscles a little bit more. So when the arms are straight, you're resting on them. You can get a nice stretch that way. But you also want to work the upper back muscles. So bend your so even if you're doing arms straight, then also bend your elbows. Push your chest forward, squeezing those shoulder blades back towards the spine. And then lower on down. Take a breath. We're going to do half frog. So bring your right knee up to about hip height so the inner right leg faces the floor. This one's a little bit, I think, of a harder one to do during your day. Unless just like, doing the shoulders, maybe a good like lunchtime one where you're taking a little break. Can be a good one just to help you slow down. So at the end of the day, I think it's a nice one. All right. If you're just doing it kind of in isolation, I think it's nice during, a bigger practice like this. But if you're just looking for kind of one little pose to do during the day, if that one's really beneficial, maybe do that one. But again, I feel like it's very relaxing to be on the abdomen, so sometimes that's not such a great thing in the middle of the day if you're not blending it with other things. All right, so left side, right leg's pulled back in. Bring your left knee up to about hip height. But as always, it's your practice. So if this is something that works really well for you to do for, 2 to 5 minutes, and your little break during the hour, maybe just stay up on your lower arms. You can get into your shoulders, I think, a little bit more if you rest on the lower arms. You can kind of let your body sink down. And then straighten out that leg. All right, we're just going to do one more pose. So we're going to roll onto our backs. And let yourself adjust to being on your back. Knees can pull in. Reclining deer. So feet on the floor near the edges of your mat. Let your knees drop over to the right side. So you're going to let your inner left leg drop down towards the floor. Arms can be any place you like. They can be overhead. They can extend out to your sides. They can be resting on the body. And so you can try walking that left foot a little farther to the left, or a little more to the right, depending on how your leg feels. Farther out, it's going to be a little more intense. And then you can slide or kind of walk that left leg over to your right side. Extend left foot straight out to your right. Pull that leg out from the hip. And then come on back to center. Both feet on the floor. And we're going to drop knees over to the left side, focusing on the right leg. Right foot can move to the right or to the left. Whatever back leg that is, right leg. Bring your right leg over to the left side. Extend your foot out from the hip. And then come on back to center. Okay, let's do a quick reclining pigeon. So just bring that right ankle on top of your left thigh. And bring the left leg up. Give a squeeze. Breath. And then we'll change sides. Let your left ankle rest on top of your right thigh. Hold the back of the right thigh. And then release this side. Stretch both legs out along the floor. Alright, so we're going to do just a few minutes of Shavasana. However you want to be, whatever position that is today. It could be arms overhead or out to the sides. Maybe you're going to bend your knees. You know, you can just find yourself in any little position that feels good. Nice full breath. And let your breath be a little bit deeper. Observe how you are. Let your head turn gently from side to side. Rotate your wrists, wiggle your fingers. And bend your knees and roll to one side. And then push yourself up to seated. All right, hands at the heart. One more big breath. Thank you for sharing in this practice today. Namaste.